Welcome to Deep Thought. Manage your attention. Now, what do I mean when I say your attention? Manage what you give your attention to, what you pay attention to in life. Because that could either bring you down or lift you up. Like, a lot of people pay attention to a lot of negative stuff. Like, when you watching the news, right? You paying attention to all the negative news items. Or if you on your social media. You paying attention to everything negative said. It could be something said about the opposite sex. What's going on in the country. A lot of people paying attention to all the conspiracy theories involved with this COVID-19. Right? In fact, let me, I ain't gonna say what I'm doing personally. But, people paying attention to the negative side of it, right? Well, I'll talk more about the COVID-19, right? And it's some stuff actually happening, but it's affecting them. It's bringing them down. It's bringing down their emotions and everything, making them feel a certain way. But then you have another group, they paying attention to some of the, what could be said to be positive things out of this COVID-19 thing. They paying attention to, like, not the number of people who died. And it's a high number, let's be real. But then the number of people who actually are surviving. Now, I'm not sure what the percentage is now. But there's a whole lot of people getting through it. I saw something the other day on social media about a woman who was 100 years old who had it. And then she was getting a standing ovation, like, from doctors and nurses as she was being wheeled out of the hospital. And, that's what I'm looking at. I'm like, yes, people are dying, but I'm paying attention to the positive things. I'm also paying attention to how people are responding, like couples. I'm seeing a lot of couples. I'm seeing more men and women out walking, people out holding hands. People are doing that. But then some other people are paying attention to the negative aspects. There's people getting divorced. Divorce attorneys are going to be very busy when this thing is over. And it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. But it's a matter of what are you paying attention to? See, life is ultimately, and what we bring in from the world is ultimately what we give our attention to. All right. I remember I read something. It was a story of about a young man. He wanted to go to this particular village. And, before he entered the village, he met this elder who was a resident of the village. And the young man asked the elder, well, what are the people like in this village? And he said, well, how do you see people? And then he said it was two young men. The first one, let me just remembering it. Yeah, be patient with me. It was two young men, right? And the first young man, he asked the guy, well, what are the guys like in the village? So the elder was like, well, how do you see people? He'd say, oh, they're mean, untrusting, dangerous, all of that. And the elder looked at him and said, well, that's how the people are here. So the young man left. Second young man came and said, well, how are the people here? And the elder said, well, how do you see people? He said, oh, they're great. People always rising to the occasion, good people, helping everybody. And the elder looked at him and said, oh, that's how everybody here is. See, understand something. What you give your attention to affects your thought patterns. If you see everything negative in the world, that's how you're going to think. If you see positive in the world, that's what you're going to see. That's why sometimes you can have groups of people, they look at the same exact instance, and they will have two different things about it. But see, you got the one group, they looking for the positives in it. They'll see the negatives, but they, in their minds, the positives outweigh the negatives. And then the people looking at it from a negative point of view, they'll see the positives, but it was like, yeah, I saw that, but, and it affects everything. Because what happens then? When you give your attention to certain things and it affects your mindset, what does it do? It creates the path that you'll walk. It'll create the path you want. Let me go back to that story again. Okay. Say that young man decided to go into the village anyway, right? He would have just had trouble. Because he would have paid attention to every single negative thing. And it probably would have overwhelmed him, probably would have put him in a certain mindset. But because that was what he was paying attention to. But then the other guy, he coming in, he's seeing all the positive stuff. So what you have to do, you got to remember, you got to manage your attention. What are you giving attention to? Are you giving attention to all the negative stuff out here or the positive stuff? You know? Now, you still want to note the negative stuff. I mean, yeah, you need to know what's going on out there. But if you do it like the way I would do it, I note it, but then I say, okay, who's beating this? I pay attention to that. I say, okay, yeah, I see that problem. Okay, so who's overcome this particular issue? Who solved this problem? And then who's on the positive end of this thing? And then you move there. But you have to manage it. What are you perceiving? When you're sitting in front, when you're watching the news, what are you paying attention to? And I'll use the news for an example because, you know, people will sit and watch the news, and they'll see everything negative happening. You know, they'll have they'll see every negative statistic and say, oh, this is bad. Right? You know, in fact, let me use an example. And I realize I have people who listen to this who are of all racial groups, but this is some specifically in the black community in the media. How often have we seen a negative depiction of a black male? You know, somebody committed a crime. We see him standing there. You know, got that picture of that brother and stuff. How many of you have said, oh, that's how all brothers are? Yet, and people will pay attention to that. But how many times people will pay attention to something that might not be mainstream media, but maybe something on social media highlighting, you know, some black men doing some positive things in their community, or creating businesses, or just simply raising good families. You know, how many people are paying attention? And sometimes even in the media, they'll put those images out, but hey, does that get the same amount of ratings? People might not pay attention. It's like, he's boring. He's not doing anything. Meanwhile, the other guy bringing some drama. But the key to it is you manage it. See, understand something. The world we live in, you have elite groups always trying to draw your attention because they have something that they're trying to promote. Even on news programs. I'll never forget when I was in high school, we had an assignment from one of the teachers. It was specifically to watch a national news program, right? But not to pay attention to the stories in it. Pay attention to the commercials. Pay attention, and specifically what commercials were shown on there. And then everybody wrote down the commercials and then talked about it. But one of the things he wanted to present with the exercise is these people making money. People know they make money off of stuff that will bring negative attention. They get your attention if they put some negative stuff up there, some bad stuff, some dramatic stuff. But not as much if you say, oh, some positive. You know, somebody doing something, they going against the grain, the perceived grain. You know, they doing everything. People paying attention to that. You know, so you know what you have to do as an individual. You have to manage your attention. What are you going to give your attention to? You going to give your attention to some drama, or are you going to give your attention to something that you can learn something that can enrich in your life? You know. You know, if you're on social media, if you're on YouTube, but what do? You watch all the channels and stuff, particularly in this sector where people are beefing with each other? Or do you watch the guys who are saying, okay, this is how you can improve your life in this area. This is how you can get more money. This is how you can improve your relationships. This is how you can learn something. Think about that. But you have control over who you give your attention to. Think about that. So you have to manage it. You have to manage it. All right? So anyway, that's all I got for now. Think on this. Peace and blessings.